Hello everyone, welcome you all to another chapter of the Python beginners tutorial. So now we are on our chapter number 14 where we'll be learning about the for loop in detail. So in our last class we do have learned that how a while loop works, but over here we will learn that how you can already specify that how many times your particular statement should loop around. Okay, in our last class we do have mentioned a condition. Till the time the condition doesn't turn in to false, it will keep on running. So it might have an error sometimes, okay, if you just put some infinite value over here. But here we will learn how you can use the range option inside your for loop. So let's not waste time and let's get started. So now over here, again, back at the same Python file in which we guys were working on. So let's right click, let's click on new, and I will just make a Python file and gonna name this one as for loop dot py, and let's click on enter. And now I do have the place where I can execute my code. Okay, so over here, so for loop is basically a special kind of loop which helps you to iterate, or it goes around a particular statement. Let's say you do have a particular word. So what it can do is it will just go in that particular word or in that particular set of string, and it will loop with each and every word. Okay. So it might sound a bit confusing at first, but if I show you guys an example, you guys will understand that in a better way. Okay. So in our last class, we do have learned about for loop or while loop, and there to specify Python to understand that this is a while loop, we have written while. So we do have type while. So over here for loop, we just need to type for, and now give it up a space. And after writing for, here you need to specify the name of the variable. Okay, so over here, let's say now I want to name this particular variable as word. Okay, so let's come here and let's type word, and I'll just give it up a space, and I need to specify this in function. And over here, once I have typed this in function, what I can do is I can just open parenthesis right over here. And now let's open my double quote, and over here now I can just type anything down over here as well. Okay, so let me just get a word. So let me type Olympics over here. Okay, so I will just come here. Let me just cut this one, Control X. Let's come here, Control V, and over here I will just put this particular Olympics right over here. And now I will just give out a colon. And here, as you guys can see, the name of my variable is word. Okay, and now if I just come down, I will just give the command to print word. Okay, so this particular variable known as word, I want it to print that. So over here, what will happen is once Python will see that this is a for loop, and it will see, okay, a variable is being defined, and over here now, as this is a string, it will just go around with each and every letter, and it will just loop around. So first it will just see O, and after that it will just print O at first, and again it will just loop around and come over here and it will just loop L. So here each and every words will basically be into a different line. So as I've already told you, it actually helps you to loop around between every string. It can be a list. It also loops around a tuple or a dictionary as well. So now let me just run this one. And here, as you guys can see, now each and every letter over here is in a different line. Okay, so I do have showed you guys an example using this particular statement. Let's click on enter. Let's come here. Let's click on enter. So I do have showed you guys an example with this particular string. Now, if you come here on top and instead of string, you can also use for loop to loop around an array or a particular list as well. Okay. So for that, now let's create a list. Okay. So let me just name this one as names, or let me just come here. I will just name this one as names equal to, now I will just open up my square bracket and now I'll just fill up it with few names. So let's open my double quote. Let's give this one as Nolan. Let's come right over here, comma. Let's open double parenthesis again. Let's name Peter. Let's come here, comma. Again, open double parenthesis. Let's name this one as Darwin. Let's give it out a comma. Now let's open double quote. Let's name Holland. Let's come here. Let's give it out a comma. Let's open my double quote. And over here, let's name Brand. Okay, so over here, as you guys can see, now in total, I do have 5 names right over here. Okay, so if you do want to create up a space, you guys can come here and you guys can just create up a space between these names as well, as you guys can see right over here. Now I do have these 5 names. Okay, so the name of this array is names. Okay, so from here, if you do want to come here into the for loop and if you want to print each of this name in each single line, okay, you guys can do that. So for that, you guys can come here and inside for loop here also you need to specify a particular variable. Okay, so from here what I can do is I can name this one as mates, and after writing mates, what you can do is you guys can come here and here you guys can specify the variable in which it's present. So for mates in names. Okay, so I will just write the name of this particular variable, and under print I can just put out the variable name mates. So over here you guys can use any names. Okay, it doesn't have to be mates. You guys can use some other words, but here make sure to use properly that you guys are able to understand that what you are looping around. So now if I come here and if I just run this particular code here, you guys can see all the things which I had inside my list, it is now showing in each and individual line right over here. Okay, so instead of doing this, like instead of working over here only with text, you guys can also loop around with different numbers. Okay, so for that, like if you do want to come here, if you do want to change out this particular variable, you guys can just name this one as nums, and over here you guys can specify that for nums in range. Okay, so if you do want to specify a particular range, let's come here. So I will just write range over here, and now I will just open this particular parenthesis right over here. So here I can just specify it with integers. Let's say if I come here and if I just type 15, and now instead of print mates, I want to print this particular variable which I do have mentioned as nums. Okay, so over here now if I just run this particular code here, you guys can see that it started looping from 1 till 14, because over here I do have mentioned 15. So except the number which I have mentioned, it will keep on looping again. Okay, so over here this is how you guys can actually loop around with integers as well. It doesn't always have to be a string or text. You guys can loop with numbers over here also. So here I didn't mention any statement. Is this a true statement or a false statement? But directly what I did is I do have mentioned that how many times I want it to loop or till when I want it to loop. Okay. So this is how this for loop basically works, as this is a special kind of loop right over here. And also you guys can come here and you guys can mention, like if you do want to mention inside this range that from 10 to 15 only you want to print. So from here you guys can just put this one inside this particular parenthesis. So now let's come over here, and if I just run this, here you guys can see it is specifying me 10, 11, 12, 13 and number 14. Okay, so I don't have the number 15. If I want 15, I need to mention 16 right over here. And if I run this code now, here you guys can see that 15 is being printed right over here again. Okay, so this is how you guys can work. So now also let's try to understand that if you want to specifically work with any of these value, as all of these inside this particular list have a index number. Okay, we do have already learned about index number. So if you do want to work inside the index number, so in that case how you guys will be able to do so. Okay, so in that particular case, now you need to come here, and over here for nums, I will just change the name of the variable. Okay, so I will just name this one as name. Okay, and here inside the range, what I can do is inside this parenthesis, first I will just type the keyword as length, as I do want to find the length. So I will come here, and now inside here I will just specify the name of the variable, which is names. And over here in print also, I will make sure that I type name right over here. Okay, so as you guys will be able to see now, if I just run this particular code, as I do have these 5 numbers over here, but if you think according to the index number of the first object is 0, then 1, 2, 3 and 4. And once I run this particular for loop, you guys can see it shows me 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, as I'm asking for the length of numbers names right over here. So this is how you guys can basically work right over here. And also instead of len, let's come here. If you do want to print all the names again, you guys can come here. And now let's come here. Let's close this thing down. Let's delete this one. And now let's give it up a space. And if I just run this, here you guys can see it's showing me that this particular statement over here do have some problem. Okay, so over here now I need to specify that in its names. Okay, so if I just come over here, instead of specifying the range, I need to specifically specify this variable. So now if I run, you guys can see all the numbers in 2 different lines. Okay, so this is how you guys can actually work. And also over here, now let me just show you guys about some different options. Let's come here. And over here now, if you do want to specify in the for loop, let's say numbers, I will just name the variables and numbers, and I'll just type in, and I will just select the range, and I will just put inside the parenthesis as 7. Okay, so now let's close this down with a colon. Let's click on enter, and now let's try to use the if statement over here. So if I just type if the numbers, or let's come here, let's type numbers, I will just specify this particular variable. Okay, so if numbers is equal to, okay, So as I've already told you that once you use double equal to when you're trying to specify a number. Okay, so let's come here. If it's equal to 1, and now let's come here. Let's close down this particular colon. So I'll just click on enter right over here. I want it to print. Let's come here. Let's open the double quote. So I will just type first num. Okay. Otherwise, let's come here. And what you can do is let's click on enter, and over here now I want to type the else statement. So let's type else. Let's click on enter, and I do have missed that particular colon. Let's click on enter. Right now I will just type not the first num. Okay, so here as you guys can see, my command over here is for numbers in range. If number is equal to 1, okay, I want it to type first num. Otherwise I want it to type not the first num. So let's run this particular code, and here you guys will be able to see that now it shows me that here the first one is only shows not the first num. Okay, and over here again it shows me first num, as the value over here is 1, as the range is 7. It is showing me not the first num is because over here the counting or the looping starts from 0. Because if I come here and if I just put the value as 0, you guys will see that it shows the first num, and then here it shows that it is not the first num. But over here again, if I come here and if I put plus or minus 1, okay, that will specify some different thing. So yeah, I hope this class was clear on how to work with for loops inside Python. So I hope to see you all in the next chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye everyone.